Hello everyone, welcome to the world of NoSQL. DynamoDB is AWS's NoSQL database offering. This is our agenda. We'll have a pre-DynamoDB talk, which is NoSQL databases. Then we'll see what DynamoDB is, its components, different DynamoDB APIs, capacity provisioning, how partitions are managed by DynamoDB, and then we'll close this part with a demo. What are NoSQL databases and why they are called NoSQL? First of all, let's clear the air on the name. NoSQL is actually not only SQL and not NoSQL. In the good olden days, we only had RDBMS, which is relational databases. And all relational databases are accessed by SQL or structured query language. Almost a decade back, when anyone used to say databases, we used to think of relational databases only. So the creators of NoSQL databases thought, why do we need only SQL? We can access databases without SQL also. That's why the name came, because SQL is not the only way to access databases. NoSQL or not only SQL database is non-relational and largely distributed database. One of the advantages of NoSQL is mentioned here, distributed. If you need more capacity for your database and want to scale, RDBMS will give you nightmares. NoSQL excels pretty good here. Horizontal scaling is very well handled and integrated in NoSQL databases. In fact, in all the NoSQL databases. It provides high scalability and availability. Scalability because it supports horizontal scaling pretty well, and availability because all NoSQL databases support replication. It provides structured, semi-structured, and non-structured schemas as well. What is the need for all these schemas? Over the years, especially from the advent of internet, our data pattern has changed. Whatever data we have today, more than 90% of those were generated in the last year. And this trend will continue. Every year, data will keep on increasing. Application requirements have also changed. We have all type of applications nowadays. We have app for smartphones, social networking applications like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. We have data from IoT devices, Fitbits, CCTV cameras, and the list goes on. RDBMS cannot cater to all these different application needs because in RDBMS, databases like Oracle, DB2, SQL Server, MySQL, etc., we need to define the schema beforehand in the form of tables. But NoSQL databases are schema agnostic or schemaless or supports dynamic schema, whichever you might want to say. That means for tables in NoSQL databases, you do not need to define the structure beforehand. Each row in a table can have different set of columns altogether. There are different types of NoSQL databases. The first one is Graph database, which is actually a network database that uses edges and nodes to represent and store data. Neo4j, Titan, etc. are graph databases. It actually uses mathematical graph theory. Then we have key value store, which is schemaless format. Data are stored as key and value. That means the columns are keys and the rows are values. Ryak, DynamoDB falls in the category of key value store. Then you have document database. In this category, data are stored as JSON documents or JavaScript object notation documents. MongoDB, CouchDB falls in this category, but DynamoDB is also a document database. Then we have columnar database or column-based database. In this type of architecture, each storage block contains data from only one column. Some RDBMS databases have started using this architecture to provide faster performance. In NoSQL world, we have Cassandra, HBase, etc. use this architecture. Now the motherhood question, why NoSQL? Let me mention at least 3 reasons. First of all, scaling NoSQL databases are super easy and commodity hardwares can be used to do so. We do not need high performing sleek servers to host database nodes. Second of all, dynamic schema. Applications are not constrained by predefined structure of tables. Schemas can be modified on the run. Now, this is very important in today's world of agile development where application modification and new features are implemented in weeks, unlike earlier days where production changes had to wait for months to get released. Third of all, cost savings. How do you ask? Let me show you the pricing trend of some resources over time. In x-axis we have time, in y-axis we have cost. So time is actually starting from 1950s and later on when computers started. The yellow graph shows the processor cost or CPU cost and the red graph shows the storage cost. Initially, storage used to be costlier, in fact very costly, more than CPU. RDBMS were designed somewhere around this, when storage cost used to be higher than CPU cost. So the makers of RDBMS thought that let us go ahead and optimize storage. Let us create a database which would reduce the storage cost because it is a costly resource. So they created this relational structure wherein you normalize your tables or normalize your data to create multiple tables and keep relations between them. So a single set of data is divided into multiple tables, each table having its unique set of data. So using that, you could reduce the data redundancy and in turn can save storage cost. Something like this. For example, say this is employee table and this is department table. Now you could put all the department information in the employee table also. Let's say employee table has columns like this: ID, name, salary, department ID, department manager, department tech or department technology. Now multiple employees can have same department. So suppose we have 1 million employees in a particular organization and out of them say 200,000, 300,000 employees belong to the same organization and there are only 4 departments. So if you see for those 200 or 300,000 employees, these rows would be same. I mean the department would be same, the department manager would be same, department tech would be same. It does not create a problem vis-a-vis storage when your number of columns and number of data are small. The moment you start creating bigger databases, bigger tables, then you have problem because you have a lot of redundancy. What relational databases did, they created employee table and then they created department table. So employee table would have ID, employee name, salary and one more column which is department ID. And this column would also be there in the department table. So department ID column can be used to relate these two tables. So this is what relational database is. Now if you see here, it was meant for storage optimization, not CPU. Now if you have to get data, suppose I want to see who's the manager or which technology employee ID 100 is working on, I'll have to join this table and this table. So relational databases are CPU hungry. You need a lot of CPU power to run them. Fast forward a few decades, storage cost reduced like anything and CPU cost or processor cost skyrocketed. So in today's date where storage cost is so cheap as compared to processor cost, it doesn't make any sense that you would optimize your database engine for storage. You need to optimize it for CPU because that will give you lesser cost or your running cost would be lesser. So that's what NoSQL databases did. They removed the relation. They said, okay, we do not need normalization. Let's keep the table denormalized. That means let's keep the redundant data. Do not separate them out. It's okay if data is redundant because it will use storage. But at the same time, they removed joining. They removed the quench of CPU from NoSQL databases by not supporting join altogether. So NoSQL databases are not optimized for storage, they are optimized for processor. These are some of the reasons applications are moving towards NoSQL databases. One more thing, RDBMS supports physical relations between tables using referential integrities. NoSQL databases do not support these, so joins are not possible. But it can be handled logically at the application layer if needed. That means, suppose you want to join employee table and department table, but you want to keep them separately. Fetch data from both the tables and join them at application end.